Hello and welcome to the 180 Degrees podcast. I'm Sinead Ryan. I'm joined by Brian McIntyre of the SEAI, who's going to answer your questions on the topic of saving money and energy in the home. Brian, you're very welcome.
Thanks.
Now, some listener questions that have come in. And the first one, let's start with attic insulation. Now, should I go with dry lining or foam insulation?
Well, the first thing to address is you want to keep your insulation as close to the living space as possible. So if you think of your attic, you're standing in your attic, if you don't use it, you want to keep the insulation across the floor because you're keeping the heat below the ceiling. Typically what people would use would be the mineral wool insulation. So like the fiberglass or rock wool or those types of woolen materials. And you'd need about 12 inches of insulation. So that would be what you'd use there. If you're converting some of the attic, then it would be insulation between the rafters above your head. And then again, it depends on the space. So what you'd use there would be what you would need to achieve the level of insulation you're looking for. So it depends. It's very much like some people use like spray foam. Some people use like the solid insulation boards that fit in between rafters. So it very much depends on what you need to achieve.
Okay. Depends whether you want to keep your attic pretty or not. Is that it? All right. Now, somebody else is in the kitchen and they wonder, does a slow cooker use less energy than an oven? And what about my air fryer? Now, this is a bone of contention. Tell us what you think, Brian.
Well, a slow cooker, without getting too technical, uses about 250, 300 watts. So you're using a lot less heat, but for a longer period of time. So a slow cooker running for 8 hours would be about 50 minutes of a normal oven, like a typical oven running to heat things. So it's probably going to be, for a lot of things, it would be more efficient than using an oven because you're heating a smaller space to lower heat. So it would be, in some cases it would be using less energy and cheaper to run. Air fryers, this is one of those horses for courses type things. It would use less energy. Like an air fryer uses about 1,300 watts versus like 2,000 for an oven. But they're not going to suit everything. They'll suit you for certain things. It's not going to be answered to all your meals. They certainly, for certain things, they use less energy. But they would be different options that you use for different things. So it's horses for courses, really.
All right. Now, what appliances in my house, asked this listener, uses the most electricity? Give us your top 3 demon appliances in the home.
Anything that you need to get heat from very quickly is usually going to use the most electricity. So washing machines, 90% of the energy is used heating the water for washing machines. Tumble dryers and electric showers would be another big driver of them as well. Yeah, so there's different ways we run those more expensively. Eco mode for a washing machine, doing washes for similar materials. And actually, sometimes if you try and do a drying day where you do a couple of loads in the tumble dryer, especially this time of year where there's not a huge amount of drying, it just means that the dryer is still warm inside. So you don't have to bring the temperature right up. So it makes it more efficient.
Clever. Okay. Excellent. And get the kids out of the shower. Is that it? All right. Now, a listener has said, we built a 2-story house in 2006, but the builder never insulated the interior walls. We have oil heating and installed a stove, but the house is still really cold. This person has counted the radiators, which I must say I've never done, 17 radiators throughout the house, but it doesn't seem to heat the home. Any suggestions?
That sounds like if it's 2006, it's probably a cavity wall. It would be strange to be no insulation in it, but if there isn't any, then that heat's going straight out through the walls.
So it's an insulation question?
It's an insulation question. And with a cavity wall, if there's nothing there, you can just pump it from the outside. So you pump insulation into the cavity and fill it there. You retain a lot more heat and it'll make a massive difference to your house.
Will they get a grant for it?
They will get a grant on the SEAI.ie into the grants.
There you go. All right, okay. And then finally, what options are available for moving towards more renewable energy when living in rented accommodation?
Well, the first thing you'd have to do is have a conversation with your landlord and convince them of the merits of switching to renewables. It might improve the BER, so ultimately when they want to sell the house, they might get more money for it. If they're not willing to do that or they can't, then you really want to look at how you might reduce the amount of energy you're using, because even if you're using less energy, it's making a big impact. So things like reducing drafts, turning back radiators in rooms where you're not using them as much, turning back the temperature in your boiler, having shorter showers, all the things you can use to reduce the amount of energy you use, as we discussed in the episode.
And do what your granny said and stick on a jumper.
Exactly.
All right. Brian McIntyre of the SEAI, thank you for joining us. And if you want to listen to the entire episode, well then do that. It's the 180 Degrees podcast. There's loads more information on it, and you can like and subscribe to that right now.